Good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. Time to call the Monday, June 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Westfield, Washington Township Advisory Plan Commission to order. If staff number one will please confirm the presence of a quorum.
Mr. Bungathist?
Present.
Mr. Horke?
Here.
Mr. Kahn?
Here.
Dr. Keene?
Here.
Mr. Maui? Mr. McCarty?
Here.
Mr. Mooney?
Here.
Mr. Neal?
Present.
And Mr. Woodard. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item next. The agenda is as we have in front of us, inclusive of a consent agenda item, no items of business, and 3 public hearing items that we will hear this evening. Moving on, we have minutes of our May 20th, 2024 meeting to approve tonight. Is there a motion regarding these minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Victor McCarty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bunkaffist. We are all present, so we can do this on a voice vote. Everybody in favor of approving the May 20th meeting minutes, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed or abstaining? Minutes are approved. If staff will now please review our rules of procedure for tonight's meeting.
Yep, so for this evening, for this evening, we just have public hearing items. We do not have any items of business. So I just wanted to cover a few general rules of procedures for the public hearing items. For items that require a public hearing, tonight's meeting will have the following structure. The department will summarize the petition. Then the petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the Plan Commission. The president will open a public hearing. Individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those representing a group will be given 5 minutes to speak. Only one member of the group will be given 5 minutes to speak. For efficiency purposes, we ask that those representing a group speak first. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to the commission members. The petitioner will then be given 10 minutes to respond to comments without interruption. The commission will follow up with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. This may include additional discussion with the petitioner. I just wanted to cover some general rules of conduct for this evening. Please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, then we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time. If you must answer them, then please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak into regard to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, then please line up along the west wall once the public hearing is opened. Please sign the speaker sheet as you approach the podium to speak. For efficiency purposes, we ask those representing a group speak first. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and we ask that you do not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you'll be advised when there's approximately 30 seconds remaining. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition, they should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will be forwarded to the Plan Commission members and the petitioner. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put on the record. Also, please mute your microphone when not speaking. If you come up to the podium to speak, please ensure that the microphone is on as indicated by the green light at the base of the microphone. With that, that concludes our rules of procedures for this evening, and we can proceed.
Thank you. Next thing up is our consent agenda, which includes one item. Is there a motion regarding tonight's consent agenda?
Mr. President, I move the consent agenda as proposed.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mike Neal. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Dr. Keene. Staff can approve the consent agenda item. If staff will please call the roll.
Mr. Bungathist?
Yes.
Mr. Horke?
Yes.
Mr. Kahn?
Yes.
Dr. Keene?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Mooney?
Yes.
And Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. As indicated, there is no item of business tonight, so we move into public hearings. First of which is petition 2405-PUD-12, iBeach 31 at Grand Park PUD. It is an amendment to something that has previously been approved. If staff can please provide an intro, and then the petitioner can present.
Thank you, President, members of the Plan Commission. Good evening. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item presented before you is the iBeach 31 at Grand Park PUD Amendment 1 proposal. The proposal is approximately 4.15 cumulative acres at the northeast corner of East 181st Street and Grand Park Boulevard. For context on the iBeach project, the zoning for the development was approved via Ordinance 22-16 in October of 2022, with the associated detailed development plan established in early 2023. The development has implemented the outdoor volleyball courts as seen today, but has not constructed other elements as seen in the approved DDP from last year. This iBeach Amendment 1 proposal outlines incorporating additional real estate into the existing iBeach development. The already existing development encompasses about 3 acres, where the proposed real estate addition encompasses about 1.15 acres adjacent to Grand Park Boulevard. As a result of incorporating the additional real estate into the iBeach development, the petitioner will also be incorporating a new concept plan and additional character exhibits within this amendment proposal, as displayed in Exhibits 5 and 6, respectively. This item is before you tonight for a public hearing. It has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments related to the petition. Eric Douthit of Church, Hiddle, and Antrim is here tonight to present updated details of the project. He is available to answer any questions, as am I, if you have any for staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Douthit, floor is yours.
Eric Douthit with Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, 116th North Union here in Westfield. Many of you, if not all of you, I think Victor was the only one that was here the last time this came through in 2022. One of the, oh, and Mr. Jorge, I'm so sorry.
I think I was.
And Mr. Jorge, of course. One of the big issues we had then was a 1.5 acre piece of property to the west of what was originally acquired. There were questions about what was going to happen with that property, whether we'd be able to acquire it. By we, I mean iBeach. Despite our diligence, they were not able to acquire that at that time. However, that did come up for purchase after the detailed development plan was submitted with regards to their original submission. So what you see here to the west of that white line is the 1.5 acres that I'm talking about that iBeach was able to acquire. This was after they had already put in their outdoor volleyball courts and were prepared to put in the building itself. That caused iBeach to go back and redo its original detailed development plan to take advantage of this additional ground, as well as update and upgrade what they were intending to use. If you could go to the character exhibits for me, please. Just to remind you what is presently in, go to 6, that's 5. So, I'll steal it from you here, how's that? In the previous iteration, this were the character exhibits with regards to what it was going to look like. Both from the front and the side, and these were approved as stated. We are now, with the updated ground, able to incorporate a lot more brick, a lot more limestone, as well as some additional uses on the west. Specifically, one of the things that we were challenged with was to make sure that there was going to be no parking on Grand Park Boulevard, that was going to be an appropriate use, as well as we're try to get a good view, good face of what we had there, and that's what we've done. So going to the character exhibits, this is what you're going to see from the front corners you're pulling in. This is the back where the existing beach volleyball courts are located. Those won't be moving because of the way they've already been engineered. This is the front facing towards the west, and this is the back facing, or the northern side of the building on the west side. The updated site plan, you'll see, oh, that's not the updated, Oh. That's better. There we go. I can do it a little easier from there. Thank you. I think this is where you'll find our, there it is. So it's the updated site plan. Here are the beach volleyball courts that I was just speaking of. Pickleball courts will be in the northwest corner. Those could be multi-use courts, but pickleball is what it's presently scheduled as. 4 indoor volleyball courts, which is what we previously had planned, but now a bigger amenity space within there with concession stands, locker rooms, workout facilities, and other tangential properties is already permitted, or tangential use is already permitted. As you'll see, there's no parking on the west. The parking is the existing entrance and exit, with the parking going along to the east side of the property. The other unique thing that was within this particular PUD amendment is, since the beach volleyball is already built, we had to come up with a methodology by which we would address the parking while we were under construction. As there's an existing detailed development plan that allowed for the construction of a parking lot, that parking lot has already been laid down with gravel to allow parking during this summer's session, and taking into account the construction that's going to happen as well. We've added a definition in here with regards to temporary parking that would cause that parking to cease on that gravel next year. So that can't be an ad infinitum parking for that outdoor facility. It's only so it can be used this summer during the outdoor parking. So it'll terminate next year if we don't have a certificate of occupancy. You'll see a blank with regard to that date. That's one of the things that we'll work out with staff to come up with a specific date to put in the PUD when it comes up for your final approval. Besides that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have either before or after the public hearing.
Thank you. This item is in front of us for a public hearing, which we will move on to right now. Before going there, a reminder again for anybody that may be attending virtually and have comments they would like to offer, please email planners@westfield.in.gov. Be certain to include iBeach31 in the subject line and type quickly so we know if you're out there and wanting to speak. I will now go ahead and open a public hearing at 7:12 p.m. Do we have anybody in the room that wishes to speak on this item? I'm seeing no volunteers. And is there any email already or no?
No emails.
This is the parts of these kinds of meetings that I so enjoy, where we will wait for a little while for anybody that might be out there typing fast and furiously to offer a comment, at least to send us an email that says they have a comment that they would like to offer. So I'll give them about a minute to quickly type something, then we'll close the public hearing and entertain conversation from plan commissioners.
We have received one email.
No emails yet?
We do have an
Oh,
email.
we do have one.
Mhm. I'll go ahead and forward it.
This is like a first.
First one of the year.
Yeah. All right. Is it lengthy? Is it just, hey, I have comments, I'm still typing, hold it up for me, or? Oh, we have it. Everybody have it, except me? Ah, forwarded from Kevin Todd, here it is. So it is a very brief email indicating they would like to voice support. It is from Ben Fruehling, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Fruehling. No idea what his address might be. Also has confidence in Blackline Studios. Is there any other email that has shown up, or is that the only one?
No more emails.
No more. All right. Other typists will have had time to also submit. Having no others, I will close the public hearing at 7:16 p.m. Land Commission members, do we have questions or comments for staff or the petitioners team?
Just a relatively quick comment that I know what you went through the previous time. I endured it along with you. Thank you for just being able to seize on the opportunity to get this additional land, though, because, I mean, wonderful opportunity. And in terms of the architecture of the building, looks beautiful to me. I mean, nothing but improvement since last time, and particularly love that you have a balcony and just maximizing the space, and I think it's going to be a real cool venue. So, thank you.
Echoing what Victor said, really enjoy the architecture. This has changed. I don't recall the last revision, but I remember the revision before that revision on 186th Street, and this is just leaps and bounds, incredibly more well done. On that note, and as somebody new to this revision, confirming it's the intent that Exhibit 6 is shown, and then this as the presentation will be what's incorporated in the underlying amendment. And then question for Mr. President, I assume we will see this at workshop in 6 weeks for a final time. Is that the intent?
Unless there is some decision to the contrary, this
Okay.
would be, the next move would be
More,
listens to whatever it is that we have
Perfect.
to discuss and question.
Perfect.
There was nothing
So
for
then-
public comments, but yeah, we would go to a deeper dive at a workshop meeting.
Thank you. So then just for lack of understanding, staring at Exhibit 6, if you could also include the architectural drawing that just shows the material type, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Certainly. So address a couple of your questions. With regards to slide number 6 in your packet, we do have materials specifically listed. That was added this morning, so that
Understood.
that just came across. And this is an as-built proposal, meaning what you see in 5 and 6 within the discretion of staff is what we intend to build. So I think during workshop, we can certainly work through any of the specific details that you may have with regard to any of those materials, landscape questions, or any of the like.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other commissioner questions or comments? As I'm looking at what's in front of me here, I'm not sure I'm fully understanding which is Exhibit 6. Is that the west elevation, the Grand Park Boulevard?
Correct.
Elevation.
So, go
I'd
back.
like to make sure I understand what that is, because I had some concerns on that the last go-around that you've
Yes.
probably forgotten since.
So the site plan that you see here, the masonry building is what's going to be in the middle of the property that you see here. This is Westfield Boulevard to the west.
Grand Park Boulevard.
Grand Park Boulevard to the west. Sorry about that. 191st, 181st to the south. Too many streets in my head, I apologize. The 4 indoor courts are to the west that you see here. So as we go to 5, or to Exhibit 5, here you can see the architectural nature of that setup from each angle. Now we're back to page 6 of Exhibit 6, which is the character exhibit. The building that you saw in the middle is the one that has Westfield is this one right here. So it's the same as number 1, called the Westfield Collective on that. This, slide 2, is what you'd see from the north, if you were standing in the northeast corner of the property. Slide 3 is if you were standing in the southwest corner of the property. Slide 4 is the northwest corner of the property with the pickleball on the very northern part. You can then see to the east of that, the outdoor volleyball courts. This is another version of the pickleball courts with the outdoor play area here that then leads to, in this case, behind us or to our east would be where the outdoor volleyball courts would be. So this is a picnic area, hangout area for folks who are playing in those outdoor sports. And then here is, and the last piece are the materials in slide 6. In slides 7, 8, and 9, those are previous versions, just to give you what we had back in October of 2022. Those will not be included in the final PUD, but I thought they were helpful for today's presentation.
And on that particular one, the right part of that is the west face of that building.
This would have been
Which
the
has-
west, yes, the
Yeah,
west face
which
of
has
the
the
previous building.
graphics, it has a couple of windows that I was hoping back then would have been larger than what they ended up being.
Correct,
That is not at all what we're seeing on the current rendition,
correct.
which has 2 fairly large windows on an upper story. But that's going to, I think, be kind of a disappointing elevation to have towards Grand Park Boulevard, which is our main thoroughfare into Grand Park, and where expectations ought to be a little bit higher for digging down deep into your resources for coming up with nice materials. And I'm not sure that windows that high do the elevation any good. Part of what we were looking for at the original time this came through was some light and activity that would be visible at street level. We have none of that now, and it's kind of more basic building. The nicer materials are towards the east end, which is understandable, but I think this west end needs to be elevated in its attention to detail and materials.
And I think we agree with that. These came in this morning to give us some idea, and I think workshop will help us add some of those, some of the benefits that we had in this. We can be able to add to the north-facing outdoor or indoor court facilities through the workshop process, come up with something that works for everybody, I think.
All right.
Okay.
Anybody else? I don't need to labor over that point.
I mean,
probably.
to echo kind of what you had stated, and that's where my question stemmed from is, and I don't understand the business model by any means, but I would anticipate that community activation actually being on the side of Grand Park Boulevard with the trail access, with the frontage, with the ability to see it. So again, I don't understand the layout of the building and the intent behind it, but in my mind, it makes sense to have the additional volleyball courts right by the other volleyball courts, and then the actual community activation as a more frontward-facing amenity. Again, that's not a comment to do something or anything else, but just as we process and build up towards workshop consideration.
And I appreciate that comment, but if you've been out there, the 6 volleyball courts do take up quite a bit of space, and the ability to have a centralized location for the concession stand, locker rooms, et cetera, that is more centralized to get to the outdoor volleyball courts on one side and the indoor volleyball courts on the other side made some sense over the course of the design. Obviously, that centralized building looks better than the metal building where the outdoor volleyball courts are housed. So coming up with a methodology that both functions well for the people that are utilizing it as well as community activation, I think that's the perfect use of the workshop to come up with those kinds of methodologies.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Further comment more for staff, if you even know the answer. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm looking at the GIS right now, Grand Park Boulevard does have a trail on the west side. Is there any expectation that there will eventually also be a trail on the east side? Which is kind of dovetailing off of Mr. Bunkfist's comment that if we have pedestrian activity, it's even that much more important if there's people from the apartments that might be. Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's a path.
So, short answer, yes. Both sides of Grand Park Boulevard would be required to have the 8-foot asphalt path per our construction standards.
All right. So while it's not there today, to Billy's point, the expectation is that we'll have pedestrian traffic, which there's a lot of residential to the south, people that could well be hiking up their way to Grand Park or some of the future businesses that we'll have there. So it makes that just that much more important that we address things. So between now and workshop meeting, we'll be looking to see that.
And then I can just add in terms of infrastructure, we will thankfully eventually, once we're able to get the funds for it, have a roundabout there, 181st and Grand
Correct.
Park Boulevard, so that'll also have to do with pedestrian connection.
We look forward to seeing you at workshop, and if you have any additional questions, we'll see, we can answer them there. Thank you.
All right, one more thing that you probably don't necessarily need to hang out for, but in looking at the property lines on the GIS, this parcel that iBeach has acquired is 90 degrees. There is no cut for a future roundabout right away. Yeah. So there will need to be some consideration for that. You can see it on that image as well, where 3 of the corners have diagonal lines. iBeach Northeast does not.
We're appreciative of the roundabout, and there's some history that we're going to research before we address that in a public setting.
All right, that's something that needs to be reflected in what we approve, but it's not so much our responsibility.
Understood.
So, all right, if nobody has anything else, we can go ahead and move on to our next item of business, the next public hearing, after I close the tabs associated with this one. Get the right thing in front of me. So, and we will see you at a workshop. Second public hearing tonight is petition 2406-PUD-14, NAGM Planned Unit Development. Staff can present, and then we will hear from the petitioner.
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The item before you tonight is the NAGM Planned Unit Development District. This petition proposes to rezone roughly 1/2 acre located southwest of the intersection of Jersey Street and Mill Street for the development of a sit-down restaurant. You can see that right here on the project location map. So this proposed ordinance includes a site plan and architectural elevations. So site plan shown here, architectural elevation shown here. Both of these would be required to be developed in substantial compliance per the PUD ordinance language. Additionally, site landscaping, parking standards, and streetscape standards, which you can see here, would also are also addressed in the PUD ordinance language. So this item received its first reading at the May 13th City Council meeting, and tonight this item is slated for a public hearing. This petition was properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments to date. I would like to add too that staff does not have any objections with the workshop being waived for this item. Additionally, if APC feels that a recommendation should be made tonight, staff is comfortable with this item being forwarded to City Council with a recommendation. With that, Matt Skelton of Church Hill and Antrim is here tonight to provide a brief presentation on this item. Both the petitioner and staff are available to answer questions, should there be any from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton.
Yes, good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Matt Skelton with Church Hill and Antrim with offices at 116 North Union Street. Here in town with me this evening is Henry and Shelley NAGM. They are excited to introduce to you the latest restaurant concept that they would like to locate here in downtown Westfield. You may be familiar with this project already. It's received quite a bit of press. I think it was the top story in the IBJ at least once and has appeared several times, and I know there's been some city press releases. The Najum family are the owners of Savor, if you're familiar with Savor in downtown Carmel. They also are the owners of Flame Burger, sorry, Flame Burger in Keystone of the Crossing area. The Najum family has worked extensively with the economic development team, with the city, and also the planning team, with the city to design not only the site improvements, but also attributes of the building. This is a beautiful restaurant building, if you could show, yeah, thank you. And the elevations just don't do it justice, but one of the most noteworthy aspects of this project, I mean, these are all very high quality materials, limestone, brick, metal, architectural metal elements. But the front of the building and the back of the building, there are extensive window walls, like that are openable walls to the inside outside. So it really gives that kind of indoor-outdoor effect when weather allows. So it'll be something unlike we've seen before. The closest thing we have that might be similar is some places have garage doors or something, but this is not that. This is a little different. The restaurant will significantly enhance the Grand Junction Plaza area, not only from a land use perspective, this is right in line with your comprehensive plan recommendations, but also from an aesthetic perspective, we've worked with the city and the streetscape improvements that were shown here a little bit ago, and I've got to give some kudos to Weston. I think he had a lot to do with preparing this exhibit, so I know this was the work of some planning work within the city among the departments to come up with a strategy. I think the city would like to replicate this same treatment throughout this area. But this will dramatically enhance the streetscape in this area. The restaurant, if everything goes according to plan, is scheduled to open as early as possible in next year, next spring. And so time is of the essence. To the extent that you are comfortable after the public hearing, we would very much appreciate your consideration of a suspension of the rules to expedite our process. With that, we're happy to respond to any questions that you may have, either now or after the hearing. And again, we have really tried to work diligently to address this is what you see before you is the product of several months of work with the city's economic and planning team. And we hope that you will appreciate this, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. As indicated, this item is number one before us for a public hearing, which we will move on to. Before I do that, I will remind virtual attendees, if there are any interested in this, to please quickly type an email to us at planners@westfield.in.gov and include Najum PUD in the subject line. That being said, I will now open a public hearing at 7:33. Is there anybody present who has a desire to comment? Does not appear that we have a taker on that, so we will wait a minute or two to see if there is a virtual attendee that has thoughts to share.
Yep, we have no emails.
No emails? All right. It is a little past 7:35, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Petitioner, questions or comments for staff or the petitioner?
I don't have questions. I just would say that I would trust our planning team to the point that I don't see that there would be a need to have a work session on this. So I would make a motion to,
We'll give everybody a chance.
Okay.
We'll look for
okay.
a decision on whether or not to waive the workshop meeting. Any comments to my left?
No, I just wanted to say that the elevations look great, and the particular selection of high-end materials is appreciated. So thank you for the detail that you've put in that.
Thank you.
Also, just echoing support and echoing Dr. Keene's sentiment that if this commission is willing, I'd also consider such.
First and foremost, want to say thank you for being willing to invest into our community. That is just wonderful that we'll have another restaurant for our downtown goers. With that being said, of course, I'm always going to have my opinions. So just the first time I'd seen the rendering was when it was introduced at council meeting. And so when that happens during the process, of course, I'm going to stew on, does it necessarily fit the character of the area, and just take multiple factors under consideration. You have Union Square to the northeast. That's going to be 5 floors. Further down, you have Sun King. That's going to have a balcony with 2 stories and be able to look out when we have concerts and so forth. And then to the southwest, you have the Park Street Village area that's remodeled some buildings. In terms of architecture, to each their own. They're going to have their own thoughts and opinions on it. It's totally fine. My biggest miss, I think, is 2 things. One, making it just a more unique-looking building where you could have had the entrance to the building be more off-kilter to, as we're looking at the screen, to the right. So then when you're coming out of the building, you're going directly into the plaza, and it just has that huge open space there. And then also, again, mentioning Sun King, and then even previously with iBeach, get that verticality. Having the 2 stories. I think as a business decision, 2 stories would be wonderful, because unfortunately, when you have patio goers, concerts, other events going on, you have the utility building that's going to be blocking the view of what's going on in the Great Lawn and the stage. So, being a patron there, I would love to be able to go up top and have an oversee of the plaza and see what's going on. Activity breeds activity. So again, those are just my thoughts of wishing that it did have some verticality with it. But otherwise, I again thank you for being willing to invest in our community.
Thank you. Other comments from commission members?
I have a question for Councilor McCarty.
Sure.
So based on your concerns, where are you at on a workshop?
My preference is that I do wish that, again, being so late in the game, having eyes on it, wish could have had a little bit more thoughts, or being able to share thoughts and opinions through a traditional workshop process as we do with other things. But that's just me, and I'm not going to hold anything up just because of my personal opinion.
With that, I'm incredibly supportive of this project. I think this is a fantastic addition to what's happening here, I think, as a concept. And I didn't particularly have any trouble with the design, though I'm always open to conversation with. That's why there's more than one of us up here. I think where I stick is if there's one member on this board that has some concerns, I'm typically against moving it forward because I think they should have an opportunity to get further input and review. But if Councilor McCarty is not interested in holding it up, I'm not necessarily interested in doing it either. But typically, if there's, as a courtesy to other members of this board, I typically, and I think I'm expressing support for the project. I would vote for the project. But if any member of our board wanted that courtesy, I would certainly vote to extend the courtesy to them to continue to have that further input. But that's my position. I guess I'll see how this works out.
Thank you. Is that
I didn't make a motion.
right? Do those comments prompt any further thoughts from fellow plan commission
No,
members?
if you wanted to hold it up. I mean, of course, we'd give that courtesy with it. If he's not wanting to, then, I think they've done a lot of great work with the planning and the city already. So I agree with my fellow members that I would move it forward.
And I appreciate my fellow commissioners just wanting to be able to provide the opportunity. But again, I know I've seen in the past of people holding up projects just because of their thoughts, and I definitely don't want to be that person. Again, just my thoughts of you only have one opportunity to do it right, and I would just love to have verticality in this area. So that is all, though. If others are wanting to move forward, we can move forward.
Thank you. I think those comments actually make a lot of sense. I will trust that the petitioner's team perhaps has already evaluated and determined that what they desire to do maybe doesn't work with that. The larger, taller building brings along a lot more than just another floor. There has to be a way of getting up there for service workers and the customers, so that will really complicate things. It still can be done, obviously, but I don't know how their pro forma works out.
Right.
I initially was concerned that this building, when I first saw the elevations without knowing the details, maybe didn't quite look like what we'd want on that corner, but the more I've looked at it and read the materials list and thought it through, I think we've got something pretty good here. So I'm not interested in being a roadblock either. So if Dr. Keene would like to propose that we waive the workshop meeting before we get to that council, does it require a unanimous vote or just a majority of us? All right. So we're wanting to make a motion to that effect still. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
I'm still wanting to make the motion to waive the requirement for a workshop appearance.
Is there a second?
I will
the-
second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to waive the requirement for a workshop meeting. If staff would please call the roll.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Keene,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
No.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
No.
Mr. Bunkefest,
Yes.
and Mr. Horke.
Pressure's on. I will vote yes on this to waive it. Moving along.
Okay.
That being accomplished now,
Yeah, motion passes 5-2,
Yeah.
just for the record.
as I said, pressure's on. Takes 5 of us to make that happen.
We still like you.
They especially probably like me, as does Matt. If you would like to come back up and provide some additional
At the risk
thoughts of yours.
Yeah, at the risk of complicating things, I just wanted to let you know, I mean, the development team has in fact wrestled with the very item, and Victor knows this, we've had these discussions. Some of the early iterations of plans included a building that was oriented, instead of east towards the plaza, northeast towards the intersection, which allowed for a building configuration that would accommodate a rooftop space much better. The current layout at the city's request, we moved the building to address the Mill Street, and it just changes the building configuration depths and widths enough, and I'll embarrass myself if I go much farther than that, but it just doesn't work for a rooftop experience, because there's more than just a patio. I mean, there's storage, there's coolers, there's a bar area, you got to get up there and down. I mean, there's a lot of logistics. So that is, what you're seeing is not a first attempt. That was our first attempt.
Sure.
And then secondly, I would just offer up, I mean, yes, styles are subjective. I mean, I think we all agree to that. in your comprehensive plan, I mean, it specifically contemplates and encourages somewhat of, this probably aren't the words that are used, but kind of a funky mix of shapes and colors and materials. And I think this proposal checks all those boxes. And so I would just give you that little bit of context. And some of the reason for the green area, if you look at the streetscape exhibit that we showed earlier, there are some programmed plantings along that area that are going to really create a really nice experience that would not be possible if we just push the building, right up on the sidewalk. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but I just thought that context may help you.
Thank you. Not sure you complicated anything any more than it was already complicated.
Mr. President, if I might have a point of personal privilege, I guess now that we're outside of that actual vote, I do want to make it clear, and I already told that to Councilor McCarty, that my vote was simply to extend a courtesy to a member of our board. I'm incredibly supportive of this project. Plan on voting aye when it makes it before us. I'm excited because we don't have a lot of we don't have as many dining options as I wish we would have in this city, especially at the level of this location. Excited to bring my wife here for date night, but I wanted to make sure that I was very clear, just in case anybody asks or is listening, that I always want to make sure I extend that opportunity to other. I would appreciate the opportunity as well if I had some further questions about this, and I want to make sure that that's why I voted the way I voted, so I want to explain that. So excited for this project. Thank you, Mr. President, for that opportunity.
Sure, thank you.
And a similar explanation, it was just, again, wanting to go through a process to have that creativity. I'm someone who, when I see something, I get hooked on it, and personally, I thought the first rendering was more beneficial to you as business owners and more lucrative. So, that, again, I liked the way you were going with the option as opposed to this one, but again, that's just my personal opinion. I will be supporting it.
Thank you. That all having been dispensed with, we are now at a point where we can go ahead and make a recommendation to council. Is there a motion regarding what to send to council?
Make a motion that we send 2406 PUD 14 Agent Plan Unit Development to council with positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second it.
I have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation. If staff will please call the roll.
Mr. Khan,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkovist,
Yes.
and Mr. Horke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I trust that you will. We're all hungry and want to go to dinner. Or have beverages or something. So, all right, moving on. We have one more public hearing item to attend to tonight. That is petition number 2406-PUD-15, the Spring Water Planned Unit Development Amendment 1. Prior to staff giving us the prelims on this, let me remind everyone that might be attending virtually, if there is anybody out there, please type quickly and send your comments to planners@westfield.in.gov with Springwater PUD in the subject line. Staff, please.
Thank you, President, members of the Plan Commission. Again, for the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item presented before you is the Springwater PUD Amendment 1 proposal. The subject real estate comprises approximately 41 acres on the east side of South Union Street, about 1/3 of a mile north of the East 161st Street and Westfield Boulevard roundabout. For context on the Springwater development, the zoning was established back in February of 2022 via Ordinance 21-52. This Springwater Amendment 1 proposal outlines text modifications to the existing ordinance to align contextually and visually with the existing character exhibits established within Ordinance 21-52. The extent of text modifications can be seen within Exhibit 4, in which is a redlined version of Ordinance 21-52 that outlines the proposed text changes that will be provided within the proposed Ordinance 24-31. Exhibit 1 staff report also outlines the extent of the proposal within the amendment request section of the aforementioned staff report. This item is before you this evening for a public hearing. It's been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no comments related to the petition. Jeremy Lawler of Old Town Companies is here tonight to present details of the amendment proposal. He is available for questions, as am I, if you have any for staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lawler, welcome back. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you. I won't take too much of your time this evening, but I did want to just touch base on a couple things. It was brought to my attention that there was a question of why did I include the entire ordinance? I did that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I know that the majority of you were not around in 2022, so I wanted to make it very clear that we are simply trying to make changes to the ordinance in an effort to accommodate the character exhibits that were in the original ordinance, and also bring you up to speed on what you would be approving. The project is located at 16501 Westfield Boulevard. It is well underway development-wise, which is why I'm going to respectfully ask if you would suspend the rules for my project tonight. Also, only from a timing perspective, because we would like to pull building permits for our model townhomes and our model homes in the very near future, in the next couple of weeks, if at all possible. And then I just wanted to walk you through. Why is that thing there? Walk you through the specific changes of that are being addressed with the language changes. And it is easiest for me to show you. So the language associated with the townhomes is consistent with what we've used as character exhibits that can be built there, with the idea that this is a transitional architecture, meaning it is similar shapes with modern characteristics. And what we found when we got into the single-family design is properties like this one could not be built under the existing ordinance. This one in particular, this house in particular, so one of the changes is the elimination of the requirement of trim boards around the windows and on the corners. This design here, as you can specifically see, does not have trim there. There's another exhibit that shows that really well too. It's one of the modern characteristics of the design that is put together for this plan. For example, this does not have the corner trim, so your typical lap siding would wrap the corner and make a corner more like what you would see in older designs, but also in the modern design you have it's reverting back to some of those things. The second one is a reduction in trim size. The ordinance requires a 5.5 inch wide trim board. As you can see here in these more modern designs, they don't have that large of a piece of trim wrapping the windows. And in the event that it does require trim from a construction or otherwise perspective, we're just asking that we reduce that to a 2-inch requirement. So when trim is necessary, we would move from a 5.5 inch wide trim board to 2 inches. This exhibit here, currently the ordinance does not allow for a flat roof on a non-primary structure. We are not requesting that you change the primary structure standard. We are asking that we could do some flat roofs on ancillary structures. This is a good example of that, just to create more of that modern style. Another thing that you'll see here is the roof overhangs. More traditional homes require a 12-inch roof overhang. We're asking for a reduction to 6-inch, so we can accomplish some of these shorter roof overhangs with gutters. The current ordinance requires a 4-window front facade. In many of our concept plans that we've got, similar to this one, we can't accommodate 4 windows. We will do very nicely designed windows like you see here and here, but we'd like to reduce that from 4 to 3. And then the last of the 6 changes is currently the ordinance requires a 2-foot setback if there is a third-car garage. We will certainly accomplish that wherever we can. In our narrower lots, the cottage section of the neighborhood, they're only 45 foot wide. So if we did a bump or a setback, then it would widen too much and we could not accomplish a third-car garage because of the setback requirements on the properties. So we are not asking to minimize any setbacks. We're just saying in order for us to be able to be a custom builder, we would like to give the option of a third-car garage. And in that case, it would not be setback. It would just be a flush third-car garage. And again, if you all are willing, and per council or staff's recommendation, we would respectfully request to waive the workshop session to be able to keep us on track to be able to start building homes in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you. If you're done.
I'm done.
We do have a public hearing, which I will give one final reminder. If there is anybody remaining with us virtually that has comments regarding any of this, please quickly email planners@westfield.in.gov. And I will open the public hearing at 7:56. There's not many people left, so I'm betting none of you are here to comment on this. You can check the email. We'll hold for a minute or two and see if there is anybody out there quickly typing and give them an opportunity to share a thought with us. Yeah, this could be the start of something. It is now 7:58. Do we have any correspondence?
We have no emails.
Nope. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:58. And the floor is open for commissioner questions or comments for staff or the petitioner. This is more of a clarification and documentation of what we had approved, just making certain that there's no gray areas. So I'm not really changing anything, but if there are any concerns?
This is just a comment, Mr. President. I support, agree with the setback being an issue to get 3-car garages. I've seen that, and I think it's much more important that families are able to get more cars to their homes than not. So I just wanted to comment my support for that particular part of the ordinance change.
Thank you.
Overall, just echoing the support, and much like I had previously stated, if other council members are willing, I'd be willing to make a motion to move forward.
All right. Any other questions or comments for staff or the petitioner? Then we are at a point where if we are going to waive the requirement for a workshop meeting, we would need a motion for that.
Make a motion to waive the requirement for the workshop meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second from Mr. Bunkfist and Mr. McCarty to waive the requirement for a workshop meeting. If staff could please call the roll.
Dr. Keene,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkefus,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
and Mr. Khan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so the requirement for a workshop meeting is waived. So we are at a point now where we can go ahead and make a motion for a recommendation to council.
Mr.
Is anybody interested in making that motion?
Mr. President, I'd like to move a favorable recommendation to council on 2406-PUD-15 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Mike Neal, seconded by Victor McCarty, to send a favorable recommendation. Staff, if you could please call the roll on this.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty,
Yes.
Mr. Mooney,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkerfist,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
Yes,
and Mr. Khan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
excellent.
Just want to say thank you. I truly appreciate your willingness to help us keep moving, so thank you all.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Good luck.
Go build some cool homes.
Yeah.
After council gets this next week. After council gets it next week, and
Technicality.
then we got to get you a road open again, too. Right now, you can't get there from here. All right, so that takes care of our public hearing items. We have no further things to attend to tonight. The Osborne Trails PUD Amendment 4 is continued for a future meeting, and we are now at the point where we would entertain comments, if there are any, from one plan commissioner or others for each other.
I'll make a quick one circling back on the NAGM PUD as we move forward as a collective unit. I'm very binary in my approach, so if I hear, hey, if you're comfortable moving forward, please do. But if anybody on this body ever says they are not comfortable and they firmly request that we go, you will always have my support.
Same.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? And we are at a point where we can listen to the council liaison, bring us up to date on whatever happened at the last council meeting.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Last week, we had three miscellaneous items. One was, four, my notes here. Proclamations. There were two proclamations, one for National Gun Violence Awareness Day and one for the Friends of Hamilton County Parks. Then we had two presentations, which I highly recommend listening to the historical police presentation, discovering that we had actually another officer that passed away in the line of duty back nearly 100 years ago. So great detective work there. And then a recap of the Hamilton County solar eclipse event at Grand Park. Under old business, we had the school event center that was unanimously approved. Ordinance establishing Fund 205 unanimously approved. New business was resolution for approving transfers of proceeds and earnings that was approved. Another resolution establishing the audit committee and the ability to opt out of SBOA examinations and use a third party instead in order to quicken the process. And then ordinance 2432 approving additional appropriations. That's been a discussed item that may or may not be back at our next meeting for a vote. And then ordinance 2433 creating a new fund for redevelopment purposes. So that is all.
Thank you. There was no BZA meeting in between our last meeting and now, so no report there. There was also no plat committee meeting, so I have no report on that, and the next meeting is also canceled. So we are now at a point where community development has the floor to share words of wisdom with us.
Nothing to share tonight, so
No words of wisdom.
no words of wisdom. Good
I'm
job.
so disappointed. All right, then we are looking for a motion to adjourn. Do we
So
have
moved.
such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Victor McCarty, seconded by Mike Neal, that we adjourn. We're all here, so we can do it on a voice vote. Everybody in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed or abstaining to adjourning? Apparently not. We are adjourned at 8:04.